Joining me now is Matt Williams of NBC Sports Edge. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to talk about a sport that no one has any enthusiasm to talk about. So, hey, thank you to all 6 listeners.
Yeah, it's a weird time to be a baseball fan. I mean, it's today is like TGFBI kickoff day. We're enjoying like making picks and looking at boards and TGFBI was trending at one point apparently. Uh, but the owners of Major League Baseball are just shitting on us left and right. Just you've had some great tweets recently, though.
Yeah, I've been like venting more. I literally put out a tweet recently that was, I don't know, 10 words. It was MLB will lose fans, some of them forever. It got like 8,000 likes. There was some, people on the other side that are like, you're an idiot. They're not losing anybody, which I think people don't realize. I mean, 94, everyone's like, a 94, they didn't lose any fans. Yes, they did.
Oh, it's a
And then
ton of
some people,
fans.
and then some people are like, "Oh, well, that was a strike." Yes, it was a strike. It was a little different. Obviously, taking away the season in the middle of it is different, but they lost a lot of fans. They only got them back because of a steroid-induced unicorn season between Sosa and McGuire that is unlikely to occur again. Especially with the people currently running the game now. So yeah, the diehard fans won't go anywhere. There's plenty of people who come back. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, there'll be people. Just look. I mean, God, look at the thing. There's so many interesting comments of the people who are like, oh, my dad left in '94, and it took him like a decade to come back, and now he's like, done with it again. There's a lot of people that are like that. So it's not like some people are like, oh, don't let the door hit you on the way out. That's not the way to think, because if you're a fan of baseball, you want to be a fan of growing the game too, which again, people currently running it aren't interested. They're like alienating younger fans because you want the game you love to grow, especially as fantasy. You want to bring more people in. You want to give more interest. You want to, and the more stuff like this happens, the worse it is. So yeah, you can continue to love the game, but it really hurts the game long term, which is not good for you as a fan, regardless of how you feel. Like this should bother everybody.
I mean, I'm always surprised when I see people like sticking up for the ownership. Like,
Yeah.
I don't get that. I think that's just they maybe fans who like feel personally connected to teams in a way that they're not connected to players. But I've been very pleasantly surprised by the public outcry against ownership because I mean I think this is the first real labor strife we've had in the age of social media, and I think the players are able to voice their concerns and their issues in a way they never were before because they didn't. I don't think the beat writers traditionally would go to bat for the players, but it seems like the tide has turned, which I think is great. But I'd still like to see some fucking baseball games played.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is good because yeah, 94, like when this has happened before, it's basically the only narrative is out there is the one the owners wanted, because there was
Mm-hmm.
no way for the players to get their side out there at all. Some people didn't understand the economics of baseball, and even now there's plenty of people that will give you the standard millionaires versus billionaires, which I mean, it's a lot to a degree. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to see like what's happening in the world right now and everything coming off the pandemic, and the reality, the people that are at the negotiating table are the owners and Max Scherzer and Marcus Simeon, who just signed these massive
Mm-hmm.
contracts, where, the real issue that a lot of people take issue with is like the minimums and just fighting for your equal share of the pie. The revenues have skyrocketed, but the amount that the players have gotten hasn't even risen with inflation. So even if you're siding with the owners, they haven't even done the bare minimum, which they could just come out and be like, okay, they could come out and be honest. Hey, these are our teams. We are going to keep what we want, but we are at least going to give you a raise with inflation. They're not even doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, like I mean, I side with the players, but even if you're siding with the owners, I mean, they're like negative. I mean, they're about as being as they're handling this as poorly as humanly possible. And of course, no one's sticking up for the minor leaguers. People will throw that as a talking point, constantly throwing out the pictures of them sleeping on the floor, eating a cheese sandwich that's like got a half a tomato on it. And no one's really going to bat for them, because by definition, the players union has to really stick to the 40-man roster. It's kind of like, that's who they're representing. But
Mhm.
man, I mean, the people that are actually could you benefit from these negotiations aren't even, there's no one even like actually representing them. So yeah, it's just, it's all bad. It's all bad. All of it. It's all bad.
I think I saw someone tweet out the math on what it would cost each individual team to make sure every minor league player was getting a minimum wage during the season, or a living wage during the season, and it was something like $2 million per team. Like that's fucking nothing for them.
Yeah.
Like absolutely nothing. And the whole millionaires versus billionaires. I'm pretty sure I saw the stat was that only 38% of Major League Baseball players are making $1 million or more.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I think the problem is the people, like I said, it's just the people who are actually at the table happen
yeah.
to be all the, I mean, yeah, that's, like you said, it's a small percentage
Mhm.
of that, but uh,
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Um,
I
how
always said,
you?
I mean, how much you said $2 million to like give everyone the living wage.
Yeah.
This is something I said that's basic. I mean, you have, like Steve Cohen said, he's done some good things since he came out there. Who knows if he cares or if it's for PR purposes? I always say, who cares? If it's for PR, like same thing with politicians. If they promise something and then do it, and it's only for PR, who cares? They're doing it. What's the
Yeah.
difference? If you're doing it, you're doing it. Um, every owner, even though they don't own the minor league teams, a lot of people think they do. They don't. Other people own them. They're screwing them, especially the people that own the minor league stadiums. They're being screwed here too. But just buy a building that's full time for your home players for a residency, and buy a building that's full time for your away players. You buy two. Everyone else buys two. So you take care of the away players that come in. Your players will be taken care of because the other owners are taking care of the away players too. How much does that cost these people? I mean, just do it. Buy it. I don't mean lease it. Buy it. Buy a building. Just buy
Mhm.
one.
It'll appreciate with time, anyways. I
Yeah.
mean, real estate is like the only really solid investment over time. So, yeah, I don't get it. I just got sniped right now. Today is the beginning of TGFBI. I am almost up in the third round. I was hoping Whit Merrifield was going to make it to me, and I said before we were recording that Doug Anderson of Fantrax was going to take him right
Damn it,
before I
Doug.
had a chance, and damn it, Doug. He's actually been sniping lots of people. He sniped Shelley Verstrate in the first round by taking Soto. Now sniped me in the third round, taking Whit Merrifield. So that's a huge bummer. How's your TGFBI league going?
It's no slow moving, maybe not as slow as some. We're in the middle front third of the second round. I've only picked one, so I'm picking out of the 104. I got Bo Bichette, which I'm pretty happy with. I took him over Soto. I took him over Vlad. We don't have to get into the whole Vlad situation or Soto. I mean, I like to wait on first. I can wait on our outfield a bit. I love Bo Bichette. He's going to have a ton of at bats in the middle of a fantastic lineup. He'll contribute across all categories, and I just love to fill my infield early. So yeah, there's a embarrassment of riches that early in the draft, but I decided to go with Bo, and it gives me kind of a lot of different ways I can go in the second, depending on I can go
Mm-hmm.
ace, I can grab more speed, I can, it gives me the ability to grab a Jordan if he falls to me, which I'll consider. He's coming my way. So I got 4 picks to go. Devers and Freddie Freeman just went. So I'll have I'll have a lot to pick from. I'm either gonna, I mean, whatever. We're recording this, so I don't have to give anything away. We're not live.
Yeah.
Scherzer and Wheeler. If one of them make it to me, I'll consider that. Tim
Yeah.
Anderson, Teoscar Hernandez, Jordan Alvarez. I'll be picking one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised. I'm looking at your board. Only four starting pitchers have gone in the first 22 picks in your league. That not including Otani, because I don't consider Otani a pitcher, even though he's pitcher eligible in NFBC. So a little surprised. You have you have like a double-edged sword. You have the number one overall all-time historical ranked player in Kenyatta Storin in your league. And you also have my wife in your league.
She's fun. We have a chat going for this, and she quickly caught on that. Yeah, it's just there to talk shit,
Mm-hmm.
and she's right. She's right in there with it. Some people are like, "Are you going to yell at us for being on the clock?" Like, no. I mean, yeah, I will, but in a joking fashion. But it doesn't matter because half the people that are in this league aren't even in the freaking chat. They're not online. I'm just sitting here looking at green lights. Everyone has a green light. No one's picking. But yeah, the Kenyatta. He just won. Didn't he win baseball writer? No, not baseball writer.
Hmm. Yeah, baseball
Baseball
right of the year.
article of the year
Oh, article.
for
Okay.
FSWA. He's a sharp guy, like you said. He's the top ranked player of all time. So no, it gives everyone a little extra motivation to try to do this. And people always talk about like the industry leagues. We don't have to get into that either of how motivated certain people are. But I try to TGFBI every year, and I have not done as well as I'd like to. Apparently, my like historical rank's not too bad. You posted them, and
Hmm.
I wasn't too bad. Um, but yeah,
You're above me.
so I plan on doing well here. So um, yeah, no mercy,
I
even to Danielle, no mercy.
I don't know what I'm doing. Every time I do a draft, I say pocket aces make me feel uncomfortable. But I don't like, it's not that I don't like the build necessarily out of pocket aces. They just make me feel uncomfortable talking about. I feel like I'm, you know, go having to like really reach for things at times. And
Yeah.
so what do? I take Garrett Cole at 8, and then when Zach Wheeler comes around, I take Zach Wheeler.
Chris,
Um,
baseball pods. He took Cole at 2. He
yeah,
left Trey Turner on the board to take Cole. I don't know if I
I
could have done that.
I don't think I could do that. That's I'm taking if I'm picking one or two, I'm taking either Turner or J Ram. I mean,
Yeah, I can't go pocket aces either. I feel a lot more comfortable with my ability. Well, I mean, my ability. I love identifying late hitters. There's plenty I love, but they require a certain amount of things beyond my control in order to get the at bats necessary, because at bats run out. At a certain point, you're taking people that aren't guaranteed at bats versus crappy players who are guaranteed at bats. But pitching, if you can just identify late pitchers
mhm,
that you can get a lot of huge ROI on, like last year with Logan Webb and and everyone like that. So yeah, for the same reason. Not only do I pass on it because of that, but there is that giant, massive tier of pitching in the middle now that everyone loves. So everyone's like, "Oh, I love to wait for that middle tier." Like most people do. So it's nothing that you can necessarily bank on. So I don't know. It seems like every year everyone has a new trendy thing they like to do, and then every year I just
mhm.
like to build a balanced team throughout. I'm anti-fad. I just kind of find where I'm uncomfortable waiting late in the draft, and I draft that early. It's not rocket science for me, but I appreciate all the different cool things everyone tries every year.
I always come in with a plan, and then I throw that plan out the fucking window. That's
Exactly.
apparently what I'm doing, because I was pretty set on taking either Tucker or Albies at 8, and then when Garrett Cole fell, I was like, well, I just can't let him fall any further. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll just take Cedric Mullins. It fits the meme right in the second round. Love Cedric Mullins. I get speed, enough power, and then Wheeler fell, and I was like, oh no. Okay, no, gotta take Wheeler here. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm hoping Trevor Story makes it to me, and I'm 2 picks away. So we'll see. If I start screaming or crying in a little bit, that's because Shelly Verstrate or Mike Carter has sniped me right before I got to pick. So let's talk a little bit about you.
Right.
When did you start following baseball? Were you one of the kids that grew up playing, grew up watching the game, grew up going to the games, or did you come to it later in life?
No, I love baseball from very very young age. I went. I mean, the first baseball I really remember was the '93 Phillies. Which is dating me somewhat here. So I remember sitting in the extreme upper deck of Veterans Stadium in Philadelphia.
Mm.
Just a horrible stadium, but I loved it because that's what I grew up watching. I'm a Mets fan, but I live near Philadelphia. So '93 Phillies, I remember again. Now I'm supposed to talk about this guy, kind of like Trevor Bauer, but Kurt Schilling just dominated the Braves. Obviously, the Phillies would go on to lose to Joe Carter and the Blue Jays that year. But yeah, I've loved baseball ever since a young age. I went up to Shea Stadium to see the Mets as much as I can. My first favorite player was like Ryan Thompson, this random outfielder that wasn't too great. So yeah, very very early. And when I and when you're a kid, I mean, you like certain things, but you maybe not love them. Like I probably like the freaking mascots, like more than anything when I went to a Phillies game. But I think that the team that I like fell in love with is probably like 1999 Mets. Like that's the Al Leiter, Mike Piazza, Rob Ventura.
Hmm.
I stayed to that to the NLCS Game 5 when the Mets were down against the Braves for elimination. It was 15 innings, rained the entire time, and then we went down by a couple of runs in the top of the 15th pouring, and we stuck around. And then Robin Ventura hit a home run in the bottom of the 15th. That ended up being a grand slam single because he actually got mobbed around first, never circled the bases. But so that's basically when I completely fell in love with baseball. But yeah, so I haven't necessarily gotten to enjoy I haven't really got to enjoy winning consistently, especially with the Wilpons in control for most of my life. But yeah, looking forward to where if I guess the CBA doesn't completely clip Steve Cohen's wings, we got someone who's aggressively looking forward to improving the squad. Because I mean, money or not, I mean, he's really one of the richest people on the planet. But one thing that's, I guess, wrong with baseball these days, especially with the CBA, is most of the owners just think of it as a business. He grew up a Mets fan. He's a massive Mets fan. And wouldn't that be great if every team was owned by someone who just loved the team they owned? It would just change everything so dramatically. They're sure they'll still treat it as a business somewhat, but yeah, it's nice to have an owner that just loves the team he actually purchased.
I would settle for every owner loving the game of baseball.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
Like,
I have too high of a bar. Yeah, let's
yeah,
lower the
or
bar.
even just liking the game of baseball,
Yeah,
because clearly way too many of them dislike baseball, uh, and people in general. Which I get when you have that much money, right? You can afford to just dislike people. But yeah, no, I would settle for a lot less. Uh, but it's got to feel good though. I mean, having an owner like Cohen, for all his, I mean, he's there's clearly there are negative parts of his personality and just him in general. I guess dating back to before he was an owner. But it's gotta feel good to like be like, okay, my team might be willing to like really go for it. Like, right? You guys got Marte already. You got Canha. Um, got
Scherzer.
Scherzer. Uh,
Yeah.
you got a lot of the pieces. If they can stay healthy, that's another question. But it's got to feel promising and hopeful for the first time as a Mets fan in a little while.
Yeah, it's everyone talks about like winning the World Series and pennants fly forever, and that's truth. And everyone says like if Robinson Cano came back this year, who again I think we're actually going to end up cutting, if he ends up being a big part and we win a World Series, we've won the clinic trade. It does not matter how well he goes on to play if he's a Hall of Famer. If you make a trade and that trade helps you win a World Series, the trade is worth it. But people put too much stock into actually winning a World Series as a fan because the odds of you winning one are not good, even if you have a great team. Just look at the Braves. I mean, God, growing up, they had one World Series. They won the pennant like 15 years in a row. It's nice to have a team where you just know they're trying to win every year. I mean,
Hmm.
fans like there's certain people that may take it for granted. Maybe they don't, but just knowing, like the Giants, you have your ups and downs, but there's a process, and they're always trying to improve the team to go for it. They're gonna do as well as they can. Having extra money at their disposal to do it makes it even cooler. It's somewhat unfair. I mean, but hey, I grew up watching the Yankees do this, and being a Mets fan, never really doing it. So whatever, I'm fine. I'm on board watching them throw around a little weight they could have been. But yeah, it's just nice to know that win or lose, you're going to be competitive every year. And that's something a lot of teams can't do, which is a
Hmm.
problem in the CBA. I feel Pirates, greatest stadium in my opinion, the entire country, PNC Park. They just roll out this just terrible team year after year. Um, and it's just
They
sad.
they fleeced that city. They absolutely. Hey, you guys build us a stadium, make it really nice, and we're gonna put a competitive product on the field. We're gonna fill that state, and they fucking just fleeced that fucking city. I mean,
So sad.
yeah, unreal. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, obviously. And so like you said, like I've kind of gotten accustomed to winning, and there is uh an air of, I don't know, entitlement in the Bay Area because the teams have been so good for so long and stuff like that. But I grew up in Washington D.C., and so I grew up a Commanders fan now, right? It's not watching football team anymore. Commanders. I grew up a Commanders fan, and so like I know what the other side of that coin feels like, right? For them to just be so bad for so long, because that's what it's been for like the last almost 20 years at this point. Um, so yeah, I definitely prefer the always competitive side of that coin. I feel bad for Pirates fans, for A's fans. I mean, A's are right here,
Yeah.
right next door, like, um, and had one of the great architects as a general manager for a long time, but because they refused to let him spend any money, they never won a ring. So yeah, no,
Yeah, the Rays. I mean, where would they be if they just had a little bit of support?
it's unreal. Though you wonder, like, is the innovation that the Rays have come up with like a product of the cheapness, right? Like the only way they were going to be competitive is by doing things a different way. And the same way like Billy Bean had to, Moneyball things,
Yeah,
right?
they would have much preferred to just sign Giambi back. They would
Right.
have never talked to that guy. Oh, Johnny Damon's not worth this. Who cares? We're bringing him back. We have the money. We're going to do it.
So I wonder if like had Billy Bean had the money the entire time, would I mean the Moneyball ideas would have come around eventually, but maybe not in Oakland.
Yeah.
If they were playing with a Boston Red Sox or a Yankees payroll. So but yeah, no, you do kind of wonder like, hey, if the Rays just had 1 year, let's just spend money. Let's just screw like our limit, screw, a $45 million payroll. We're gonna double it this year. And like what like they would just steamroll.
The
Like I
Marlins
think
do. The Marlins did it twice.
yeah,
They just
exactly.
said, screw it. We're spending, and they won 2 World Series that way. And then they
Hmm.
immediately broke it down.
Yeah. Yeah. So when did you start playing fantasy?
Fantasy. I can't really pinpoint the year. Honestly, I know the reason I did is that I just, have a great relationship with my dad, but just as a way to guarantee kind of spending time with him, we love talking baseball. And this was a way where me and him decided to just share a team. And, in fantasy, not only do you have to discuss your own team, you have to know all the players. So this gave us a reason to kind of pay attention to the entire league a lot closer than we ever did. Talk about baseball constantly. It was like a daily roster move league too. So just like beginning to end, that's what we do. We actually lost like our first 2 seasons on the playoff game. I mean, a 1 game playoff 2 years in a row. Like we were like wheeling out middle relievers to try to like lower our whip, and we came up short 2 years in a row before winning our 3rd year. But yeah, the can't remember how long ago it was, but yeah, I did it just as a way to bond with my dad, and it's really a cool reason for anyone to just jump in solo too. If you love the game of baseball, fantasy baseball is going to make you love it more. Sometimes it's hard to separate fandom from fantasy, especially if you want to take it seriously. But for anyone who's just doing this as a hobby, it's easy enough to not care about that as much. I mean, you can just avoid drafting certain division players who are against you. I wouldn't advise against, I would advise against that if you want to take it seriously, obviously. But yeah, if you're just getting into it, it's just a great way to learn the game even more. You'll learn the rosters of every team. You'll have a reason to kind of check in, even if your team's not doing well, of who's doing well. You'll have more favorite players. It's just really cool. Unlike, fantasy football, it's people, football in general, everyone, it's so popular and everyone always tries to say, oh, it's such a great game. It's popular because it's 1 game a week, basically.
Hmm.
There's only 16 games. It requires no attention or real commitment to be a fan. Baseball, it really does. And if you already love baseball, fantasy baseball is a way to love it even more. It like really enhances the experience. So yeah, that's why I jumped into it. And why, again, baseball is the greatest game in the world, no matter how horrible the variables around it are. It's just such a kick-ass game.
Yeah, I started playing in a similar way. I moved to my foster father, and he decided to join a league and thought it'd be a fun way for us to bond. And but it was an American League only league, so we didn't have to worry about like drafting Dodgers or Padres. And back then, I think there was interleague. I'm pretty sure there was interleague, but it wasn't like interleague today, where like one team is playing, American League team is playing a National League team every week.
Yeah.
It was, I think there was like 2 or 3 weeks in the summer or something like that where, there were a few series we didn't really play. So we never really had to worry about like, oh, if my Giants pitcher gets rocked, I'm doubly hurt. Or, oh no, Clayton Kershaw's coming in to face the Giants, and now I got to root for Kershaw because he's on my fantasy team. So I was able to at least get like kind of introduced to fantasy without having to like put my fandom kind of on the line at the
It's a good
same
way to
time.
do. It's really a good way to do it.
Yeah, it worked out really well. I mean, it wasn't by design or anything. It was just that was the league we got invited to. But it worked out really well. I think if it had been like a National League only team, I would have been fine because I just like to compete and win. But I think my dad would have really struggled with that. He tried playing a mixed league once, and he was like, "Oh, look at all these Giants I drafted," and I was all, "You're gonna lose."
I mean, it's best to come up. A lot of people have this outlook, and it's good to have the win-win mindset of start Aaron. If I'm a Mets, start Aaron Nola versus the Mets. If he destroys us, okay, that sucks. But hey, it worked for my fantasy team. If we destroy him, hey, we've destroyed Aaron Nola. So I mean, you could call it a lose-lose maybe, but just you think of it as a win-win, then you're golden. If you can just let that concept sink in more.
Yeah, I think one of my first ever like really big DFS takedowns was I started Gavin Lux, who was like a min salary against the Giants, and he hit a home run I think in the fourth or fifth inning, and like it like vaulted me to the top of this GPP, and I was like, okay, and it got to like the end of the game. And like the only way I was going to like make a lot of money was if Gavin Lux hit another home run and against my Giants. And I'm just sitting there like, I don't know what to root for. I don't know what to root for. And he did. And I was happy I made money. I was not so happy that the Giants lost that game.
Those questions always come up. People on Twitter, wherever, occasionally see them on TV. Like, what do you care about more, your fantasy team or your real team? And I'm always very consistently strong. Like my real team, it's not even close. But that should make a lot more sense for anyone where I just explained why I love fantasy baseball to begin with. I don't want fantasy to go anywhere, but yeah, I'll choose the Mets a million times out of a million because that's why I love baseball to begin with. But there's some people that just like the math part of it. And it always boggles my mind just because I can't, that's not where I came from, but there's some people that like do not watch baseball and they're really good at fantasy and they'll just follow it and they just don't watch the games at all. And I'm like, well, I mean, whatever makes like, you happy.
Phil Dussault had never watched a baseball game until like 3 years ago or something like that. Yeah. Like it's insane. Like some people are just born with an amazing mind, and then they fall into the game. For me, like my actual team comes first. Like I root for the Giants first and foremost. Don't get me wrong. I want to win in fantasy. I do whatever I can to win in fantasy. Now, if you asked me, would I rather the Giants win a World Series this year or me win the main event overall? That would be a hard question.
Well, I think it depends on your circumstances.
Yeah, because we've won 3 World Series recently.
Yes.
That I remember. I think if I was a Mets fan or a Mariners fan, that might be a much more difficult conversation because I'm totally taking 150K and being like, sorry guys, you get paid a hell of a lot more than me.
Hey, I bet there's some people out there who may have the World Series in the bank like you do, who would just take the main event prestige and don't even care about the money as much. I mean, there are people, believe me, there are people like that. Not that they're turning down the money, but there are people out there like that. But yeah, I mean, being able to watch a Mets World Series victory with my dad, that's priceless. So, but again, that has to come with, the circumstances surrounding. So it's always interesting to see people's answers on that.
Yeah, no, it's always, it's a fun conversation because I think everybody has like a little bit different thought process, but it would be tough. Like I said, it's easier for me because the Giants have won recently, but if you made it like the Giants could never win another World Series or a main event overall, that would be, I think I would probably take the Giants.
Because then you wouldn't like baseball anymore.
I'd still like baseball, even if I knew the Giants would be bad,
thing if you made that decision and your memory was erased and you didn't know they were going to lose
Yeah.
forever. But if you knew they were going to lose
I'm
forever,
the reason,
how
because
fun
I'm the reason they lose forever. Yeah, that memory would make me probably. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right here. Um, when did you start writing and podcasting about fantasy baseball? Like, where did you transition from? Hey, I love baseball. Oh, now I love fantasy baseball. To I want to talk about this because that's a step.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's actually kind of complicated. This was maybe 6 years ago, not too long, where I have actually a pretty extreme anxiety issue. So I had to convert what I was doing in my real life to convert to working at home a lot more. So it gave me, I always loved kind of doing this thing and working in just using fantasy baseball and fantasy football in my downtime. So I'm always really leaning towards. I kind of like using math as well. So it's just something that I did for free, and then I just kind of saw that Fantasy Pros was hiring just something for their news desk. It's not like the NBC news desk or the RotoWire one. They at the time, at least, I don't know how they handle things like today. Maybe it's different. You weren't on a shift or anything. They basically like gave me the Marlins, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't even the Marlins. All of them. I had like the Marlins like relief pitching in their outfield, and like in spring training, everything. If anything ever came up, I'd write something up, and I enjoyed doing that, and it wasn't hard because I researched that stuff anyway. So I asked the guys over there, "Hey, I'll take more on. Give me the whole team. Give me a few more teams. Give me like 10 teams. I don't really care." Um, and then I decided I wanted to write my own stuff, and that's actually when I started Roto Fanatic. This was like
Mm-hmm.
6 years ago. I shut it down for a while because I was doing other things, but that's actually when I started just to post my own stuff, and I would just be doing DFS articles, anything that kind of occurred to me. And then I was offered a job over at Rotoballer, did some things there. They picked me up over at Fantrax, so I kind of moved around a little bit. That was back when Tim Wagner ran things. Eric
Mm-hmm.
Cross was still there, and then that was still baseball, which is always my favorite, and always will be my main passion. And then a friend of mine, Addison Hayes, was doing this kind of small website where he was doing data visualizations for fantasy football. It was called FF Statistics. I went to him, I DM'd him directly. I'm like, you got something cool here. Like, have you ever went to Fangraphs for baseball? And he's like, no, because he's not a baseball guy. I said, you kind of have something cool here. Like, well, I think you can kind of build this into like a football, a Fangraphs for football, because there's not really a ton of data at the time. This was again a few years ago. Where now they have like next gen, and they're there. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that are into analytics now in football. Um, and I wanted to go there. Fantrax wasn't necessarily wanting me to like do something else full time. So anyway, I did leave there completely fine, and I did that with Addison for a while, and just kind of put all my effort into fantasy football. And then after that, it grew to a certain point. Not everyone, and then we actually sold it to another site, DLF Dynasty League Football, fantastic site. And Addison kind of went to work there, and I decided to dive full time back into baseball. And I hadn't really done a lot of like writing and baseball analysis in a long time. So I just decided to just kind of write whatever I felt like. And it just, and one day I just decided I was looking at Oscar Mercado of the Indians was really intriguing to me because he hit these home runs, and like he had a really low, uh, he actually had a really low average like home run distance. So I was finding all these interesting things on him. So I decided to just start writing, and I was writing it on Twitter. And that actually ended up being the first player breakdown I ever did, where I just kind of kept writing and writing. And it was about Oscar Mercado. And that year I actually wrote like 60 of them, 60 days straight. I just wrote them. Um, so that is kind of how I jumped back uh, into fantasy baseball, and kind of everything kind of snowballed from there. DJ Short reached out to me. Then, of course, I now work at NBC Sports Edge. So that's kind of the long and short of how I got to where I am today. As far as the podcasting thing, it just kind of went along the way. Ironically, my dad had a big hand in that too. One day, he handed me this thing when I was doing football of the fantasy footballers, because they're actually like they
Mm-hmm.
have one of their big shows here in Philadelphia, and he's like, hey, you should do one of these podcasts. So you probably really enjoy it. So Yeah, I picked up a cheap microphone, and it was probably brutal. I wish I could listen to my first episode. I'm sure it was just horrible. But yeah, I just started doing it. Now it's like, just now it's no big deal at all. But yeah, I just give him credit for that, and it just kind of took off over time. But yeah, now it's just yeah, now I'm just kind of everywhere, just kind of moving around, doing what I kind of was comfortable doing. I wasn't one for wanting to take assignments because I always tell people, especially when anyone ever came to write for me, that I hate giving out assignments because I think it comes across to the audience. If it's a forced assignment, like you don't really care, you can volunteer. Like if there's someone gives you, like at other sites, someone like offers something and you take it and you have a good idea, that's fine.
Mhm.
But yeah, you never want to write about something you don't care about because I think that comes across. But anyway, yeah, here we are today. It's where I'm kind of talking to you, which is, it seems like a long, now that I say it, it does seem like a long journey, even though it's only been so many years. But anyway, but yeah, for anyone out there, it's yeah, ironically started as just like something that I had to do, kind of working homework because of an anxiety thing, which, is a legitimate thing, that we don't really need to get into now, but just one of those like things that, out there, if anyone has ever wants to talk about that in private, my DMs are always open. If you want to talk about that, baseball, whatever, I love, talking, breaking down stuff with people. But anyway, here we are.
I love your breakdowns. I absolutely love them. It's one of those things like when you start doing them, I really, it's like it signals like the beginning of draft season in some ways. Like for me, like it's right up there with bloom boards, right?
Yeah,
Where
Bloom boards, so good.
where you get to read this like 20 thread tweet. Um,
25.
yeah, 25 thread.
I always have to edit them down because that's as long as they'll let me go. And I'll say one thing: some people will bring up, why do you do them on Twitter? Well, I'll ask all these popular things. Like, yeah, why do you do them on Twitter? I enjoy doing them, and I can write them
Mhm.
on the go. I don't write these things in one go. I basically will come up with a player I want to do. I'll do all the research, and then I'll reorganizing how I want to tell people the information is actually half the battle. And then I can write it a little at a time and then release it. And number two, there is a lot of people out there say advanced analysis has maybe gone too far. There's some people who think it's like ruining the game. Get a life. Just enjoy the game you want.
Mhm.
I'll enjoy the game I want. I love writing these. And that's basically my answer to most people of any question you ever ask me. I enjoy just the baseball part of it more than the fantasy baseball part of it, as far as, I liked baseball first. Therefore, I love digging in to the players. I love, finding out more about them. I talk to beat writers, all these different things. So I like, really just genuinely like doing them. And it serves as my own research as I go along. And I love sharing that with everybody else. So is some of the, how in depth I go overkill? Yeah, probably.
Absolutely, but I love it because it
Yeah.
like there are often things like that I haven't thought about with a certain player that all of a sudden I read that and I go, "Oh crap, now I got to go reevaluate myself." It's like, it's almost like a starting gun for me to like be able to kind of, okay, do I agree with Matt? And if I don't agree with Matt, now do I need to defend why to myself why I don't agree with Matt? So I think they're great. They're fantastic. I'll be bummed if you ever take them off Twitter.
It's fun. I try not to actually have a. It's fun. At the end, I have the conclusion, which is
Hmm.
what to expect, which isn't a projection, because a projection would probably build a little more, would be a little more on the safe side. I mean, projections by nature are a little more conservative. This is just me. I go through the entire thing and I explain what the data means to me and how I interpret it. It's no bias. I mean, it's just how I interpret it. So yeah, people have always asked me questions and I tell them why, but everything is in there. You can see, I mean, you almost see me thinking throughout the threads, or I'm just going through, all right, what does this mean? This is what I think it means. And this is what I think will happen because of it. So sometimes it looks like that there's a conclusion at the end because that's where I project, but it's what I project based on the data I've seen. I almost wish I leave off the projection sometime, but I think it's a nice little
Hmm.
exclamation point to explain to people. And I do my best, which is redundant at times. I go through and I use a lot of like advanced metrics, and I always try to every single time reiterate what they mean. I always try to give league averages when I can, which is cool. Pitcher list, by the way. I mean, they update their site every day. Then they have league averages, which is such a huge thing to give people perspective of what the hell you're talking about. Because sometimes it's just too much information, and giving things like definitions and league averages on redundantly, just like over and over again, it's important. Not
Because
everyone
I don't remember all of them. Like I now have like the league average for zone contact in my head, right? Like like I know what that is now, but it's only because I cite it all the time. But then you have to go F and check it every other week, as it moves up and down
yeah.
throughout the season. But I love that they did that because now I don't have to go back. Okay, well, I said his O swing was 34%, and that's good. Is it good? I don't know. I don't know. Oh no, I can actually go and see if
Yeah.
that's good or not. And so, yeah, no, it was super smart by Nick to do that. It's I love what they're doing over there. I'm jealous of what Nick is doing over there.
I know every year, like we have some good things coming out. I'm like, what do you have coming out? Like, what are you creating now? And then it's always like, wow, that's pretty cool. When I
Hmm.
saw what they did this year, I'm like, man, that is
Hmm.
that is smart stuff.
I'm just hoping he doesn't put Fangraphs out of business. I like working there, so I'd prefer him not put my place of employment out of business.
No, I like, what's something, this is seriously stupid. I'm like going to cite something that I haven't done. Everyone should do. And I'm an idiot. You, you can, I mean, some people always complain. They're asking me like, oh, I Fangraphs. It's so much information. I hate scanning up and down. You could create a custom board where it'll just show you the information you want. I've never bothered to set it up, but
Hmm.
I go through basically everything, but it's something so simple that everyone can do. You can go through and you can have the information you want to just pop up. If you only want to see certain statistics and you use them consistently, you can select that. So yeah, very unutilized thing. The auction calculator, incredibly underutilized thing everyone
Hmm.
wants to know, because nowadays there's so many different formats. Like there's always been different formats, but there's so much information now, and there's so much podcasts and articles, and everyone's always talking about players. Fading certain ones, and it really, really, really matters what format you're talking about. Roto versus points couldn't be any more different. Case in point, anyone talking about Juan Soto and Vlad Guerrero. I mean, the stolen
Hmm.
base thing doesn't even matter in points leagues. Those are the number 1 and 2 picks, arguably, in points leagues. So yeah, a lot of different things like that really matter. But yeah, there's so many different things that are out there now. I mean, if I was just jumping in now, and I was just like a casual fan and there wasn't really an analyst, I don't know, how do you even catch up? Because it seemed like I jumped in right when they were like, really because they were obviously around for a lot longer before I jumped in, but now it's almost like common for everyone to use all this advanced stuff and the most basic breakdowns now. And it's just so much. So I don't
This
know how
is
you feel about it, but it's like, it's
I
getting to the point where,
I've been saying this a lot recently, honestly. And it was something that really came to light last year around this time when Danielle was going to be joining TGFBI for the first time. And she was like, I don't understand a lot of this. I was like, well, what don't you understand? She's like, pretty much everything. And it's not that she loves baseball. Like she knows what a home run is. She knows like the general tenets of baseball. But like, she see things like BABIP and like she's like I don't know what that means. Like, oh, it's a batting average on balls in play. Like, what does that mean? Like, I think we as an industry have gotten so advanced in our analytics that we forget that a lot of people who are either casual players or new players don't have any clue what the fuck we're talking about.
yeah. I mean, and people are you going deeper and deeper in leagues, and
Hmm.
yeah, I think Chris Clegg put out some. A lot of people talk about this. I mean, I'm just saying this because Chris put out the tweet. Scott White actually talks about this quite a bit too. It's most people are still using just 5x5 stats. Well, they'll read, they'll read and listen to podcasts, but they'll basically be in 12 to team leagues going on more basic information. While I think people should move past that, yeah, I think that kind of what I was going back to. I try to be as aware as possible of me trying to repeat and constantly remind the audience of what the certain things mean, why they're important, and kind of the context. I'll give it, give the reason why something is important and compare them. Compare players to players. It's kind of what the article I was nominated for FSWA, which I lost, but still cool to be nominated. The by the numbers, I do it every week. I'll pick a topic, and it'll basically not be me trying to push any kind of agenda that I have on the audience. Hey, look at this cool stuff I found. Look at me, I'm smart. Um, that is not a freaking shade at anyone. That's not. That was just a statement. Everyone's going to take it as some kind of freaking shot at some random person that is not aimed at anybody. But no, this is just me picking something, and I pick something I think is interesting, and then I try to teach the audience how to do it. So now, like, I'll pick a whole topic and I'll use a few examples, and the whole idea is I'm explaining the whole time how I did it, how this can be useful, how you can do it. So at the very end, if you have a few examples in your head, you can go in there and use a baseball savant search thing, which can be confusing. There's so many things you can find in there, or Fangraphs, or Brooks Baseball, or anything, and kind of go in there and teach yourself. Because if you can go in there and just learn how to do a few kind of basic things, you can have a pretty big edge, and you can have fun doing it. Especially if you're really into baseball, you can find all sorts of cool stuff.
Yeah, I wish there were more user guides, I guess is what I'll call them. I've been thinking about writing a kind of an idiot's guide or beginner's guide to like fantasy baseball. And it'd be like kind of like an encyclopedia type thing where it pretty much just breaks down everything you would need to know if you didn't play fantasy baseball but wanted to get into it, and so people would have a reference. It's a matter of me sitting down and actually writing 50,000 words, and my wife not killing me in the process.
It'd be great if you had a whole guide, and then each time there was a term like BABIP, it had like the blue hyperlink, and you click on it, and a little video popped up, and you're like, "What the fuck is BABIP?" And then you're like, tell everyone what it is.
I like this. I like this plan. So you're now working at NBC Sports Edge.
Yep.
You're still doing stuff at Rotofanatic. Rotofanatic's grown from just you to a bunch of people, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't really had the time to put into that in a while. I have some great people there, like Paul Mamino, does great data visualization. So we've kind of completely backed off of content altogether. I've actually kind of been going out of my way to try to find the people that have been loyal some spots elsewhere, because I just don't have the time to put into it. So Rotofanatic is kind of, now it's just that we've had that thing, the data monster. Now it's just kind of we're gonna put our fun projects where we're going through data and putting them there. But as far as content, we kind of dialed back completely. So that is more or less, just kind of a housing for fun projects now.
And then you're at the Athletic for football, or for football and baseball?
Football. I would, I do some things. I'll be doing some things for baseball there, but basically my home for baseball is NBC. Okay. But yeah, kind of a jack of all trades at the Athletic.
And then you've got the Turn 2 podcast.
Absolutely. Turn 2 is just my reason to talk baseball in any way I want to. I haven't even bothered to set up like the free ads offered to me by the platform I'm on, like Anchor. You can just get money. I haven't even done it. I barely ever ask people to review or subscribe.
Does Anchor not have like the auto ad function? Like,
they do.
That's what I do on Spreaker. So like we'll be talking mid sentence, and all of a sudden you'll hear an ad for Adam and Eve, because they just randomly throw the ads in there wherever they feel like it.
But this year with Turn 2, I'm actually going to wake up and do some live streams every day. They're not going to be long. They're going to be 5 to 10 minutes. And it's basically going to be going through if there was any injuries, anything cool I saw the day before, velocity drops, pitch mix changes, different spots in the lineup. If a Monday or a Friday, I'll probably talk lineups as far as pitching and hitting for NFBC, or Monday for just regular weekly leagues or daily roster leagues. I'll go through kind of anything interesting. There's something weird with the weather. If there's anything going on that'll affect fantasy, I'll kind of go through it in like 5 to 10 minutes in the morning, doing whatever I think anything I would want to know. I'm going to kind of pass it on to the audience. So it should be cool. It'll probably evolve as we go. People let me know what's a waste of time and what they really would like to see more of. But yeah, I'll start that up whenever there's baseball.
Funny enough, I'm going to probably do literally the exact same thing. over
Oh,
Friends of Fantasy Benefits.
you're gonna do yours at 6 a.m.
I'm gonna do mine at like midnight.
I'm not
Because
doing mine at 6 a.m. anyway.
yeah,
Um,
I'm gonna do mine before I go to bed because I've got to write the write up for Fangraphs anyways. So I figure, well, why not turn that into a 5 or 10 minute podcast to kind of wrap people up on what happened the previous day. So I'm
I'm
gonna have
gonna
to think.
listen. I'm gonna listen to yours. I'm gonna tell everyone what's wrong with it.
Perfect. That's exactly what you should do. Just pull a John Legeza and go, this is my counterpoint to Justin's podcast.
John, we love you, buddy.
I love John. John's great. And he's going back to the Athletic.
Yeah.
Congratulations to him. Congratulations to Mike Kurland,
Mhm.
who's got a gig at the Athletic. So a few
Mike
years.
Curlin, the only guy on the planet that wants spring training more than the players is.
Oh my God, this has got to be killer for him. Like it's
Yeah.
just got to be. I mean, I love spring training because it means it's baseball, and so that means we're one step closer to an actual season. But those docs he does of the spring training lineups is amazing. And so yeah, it's got to suck for him to be like, oh, I need this. This is my thing.
Well, what he does is very. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what the hell we're talking about, which if you're
Mhm.
listening to this, you probably do. I think.
I would hope so.
But Mike Curlin, he does these great charts during spring training, just telling you like who is in the lineup and where they're
Mhm.
moving up or down. Which in spring training, obviously, grain of salt, especially with split squads. But you can tell a lot. I mean, last year I tweeted about how Cedric Mullins was consistently in there, and I was worried for Austin Hayes' playtime possibly, but then DJ Stewart got hurt. It was a moot point. But Cedric Mullins was in there every single day. But you can see other trends. But yeah, Curlin, you just do this all season long because it's a big thing that there's not enough for. There's plenty of great ways to track lineups like
Mhm.
RotoWire, and there's other places that do it, but no one takes the time to actually tabulate it and actually show you the trends that you want to see necessarily the way Mike does.
Mhm.
So yeah, Mike, it's basically he's just doing a bunch of work you think you probably should do, but like just don't have the time for.
Yeah, no one's got the time for that, but Mike Curlin somehow figures out
Yeah.
the time for it. I mean, it's fantastic. It's one of the reasons why I was able to like really reinforce how I felt about Cedric Mullins because I was checking Mike's lineup tracker every day in spring training, and every time Cedric Mullins was in the lineup in spring training, he was batting first, and I just kept going. Okay, this is it. He's batting first. I believe in him. I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a really really invaluable tool, especially in spring training. But I would hope him going to the Athletic means he's going to continue to do it in season.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm not really sure. I'm over there. I'm not really sure of the plan.
Mhm.
So but I think that Mike's the man.
Mike's
It's
awesome.
it's funny. We had I had you on turn two for I think like a sort of like a hot takes episode, and it was
Hmm.
basically me just I gave a sentence, and you just said it's not necessarily how I felt, but like if you were agreeing or not, and I was with you on Cedric Mullins. It was at the end of the show. I can't remember. It's like I tabbed him as like he could be a top 100 player, and obviously anyone who's following Justin knows that he's been on Mullins like literally like forever here. So I was just newly on board, but I definitely had him everywhere, and you were the reason that I paid attention to him in the first place. I believe you were also on Jorge Mateo, right? Could be a
Yeah,
big deal for him if he can beat out Rough Den Odor.
yeah. I was just talking about him yesterday on Sleeper on the Bus, like because someone tweeted at me, it was all like, "Hey, I know Jorge Mateo's been your guy in the past, but like, are you like I haven't heard you talk about it?" And it's just what he's outfield eligible only. And like I just don't know where the playing time comes from. I want to believe it. He should be able to beat out Rugnador, right? Like,
I would think so. I mean,
and if not, like Austin Hayes always gets hurt. It's not like they've got like a loaded outfield. Like he should be able to. He should be able to get like 400 plate appearances, and 400 plate appearances, like he could legit steal 30 bases.
hey, with that new left field wall, he could see a nice bump in batting average. We'll see.
Yeah,
I'm intrigued.
yeah, I'm definitely. I don't have any more DCs, so it makes it hard for me to draft him now. So
Yeah, I mean, again, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I'm in industry drafts because like they're not moving the dates. But I'm
Hmm.
not drafting again until there's some good news. Who knows? Maybe there's been good news while we're recording. I highly doubt it.
I hope so, because like I already switched my, canceled my tout trip, right? Because New York's not, happening.
Yep.
Tout's gonna be online this year. So what did I do? I was like, oh, I'll just, I'll get a Vegas trip, right? I'll go to the
Mhm.
NFBC in Vegas. If they fuck it, they're gonna end up canceling it if they have to push it back a month. Like, uh,
Yeah.
so like I'm hoping that doesn't happen, because I'd actually like to go somewhere. You know,
Yeah,
it's
there's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, jump in now," like Legeza. He's like trying to. Last night, he's like during like when like 2 days ago when they were like the players were like, "We're walking away from the table." About a half hour later, Legaze's in there trying to like fill up leagues for best balls on a what is it, underdog. I'm like, I DM'd him, dude, read the room. No one's joining your
yeah.
league. And everyone's now like, oh, now's the perfect time to jump in and draft Ronald Acuna while his ADP is still. I'm like, the enthusiasm shot, like give it a day.
Hmm.
Let's see how it goes. Right now, people are just like so sad.
Well,
Um,
this is really dangerous for me, because I have a bet with Rob Silver on how many leagues I can play in, and I had perfectly scheduled them all out. The over under is 17, right? I can play in 17 or less, and I win. If I go over 17, he wins.
Hold on,
Um,
you have a bet on something you have direct control over?
Absolutely. Because he didn't believe that I could cut my leagues down that far. And I think he also wants to help me. He knows I'm competitive. I think he knows that I'll try to win it.
Yeah.
And I think he was like, you spread yourself too thin. I did 29 leagues last year. But I perfectly planned them all out, right? I'm doing two this month, two that month, two this month, and then all these in March. If we have a month extra to the start of the season, I don't know how I'm going to like hold myself back from doing extra drafts, especially because my wife has said if I do more than 16, she's divorcing me.
That's the also.
Mm-hmm.
On top of losing the bet, I'm gonna get divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trevor Story just went 24th in my draft. That
I,
is pretty early.
I just took him 30 something. Um, so let's see, 40, 39, 38. I got him 38th overall in my draft.
Got 2 picks in front of me. I may have my first share of Max Scherzer. If he drops to 27th, he'll be mine.
Yeah,
Probably.
you're pretty close. I mean, unless the guy at 6 in your league goes pocket aces with Cole Scherzer, um, or Team 5, I guess Soto could go Soto Scherzer.
I'll
But
go. What they go? They something that Ryan Bloomfield almost did in his labor draft. He went shortstop, and then
mhm.
closer, and then almost closer. And I can't remember what they were going to call it, like short stoppers or uh, I don't know. They had some kind of term for going like short, close, close. Maybe I'll do that.
It's like it's got, is it pocket sixes? Because 6 is the shortstop number, right? So pocket sixes for pocket shortstops.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't. A shortstop's so deep. I don't know that I'd want to do that, but I mean, Bichette like is like the perfect guy to take in the first round, because he gives that 5 category production. So a lot of different directions you could go. You could even
It's like
no one
shortstop. It is so deep.
it
I
falls off though.
I'm so confident in like grabbing other positions later than people are. But yeah, I think it's more top heavy than anything because there's so many of the guys
Hmm.
that people like at the top and shortstop that I don't necessarily.
Like
Um,
who?
I mean, I don't like going the Seager route, the Correa route. I'm not a
Yeah.
fan of Jazz Chisholm. I'm not going to draft Xander Bogarts that early because I think Wander Franco is just as good, and I'm not drafting Wander Franco. So there's so many guys where if I don't grab my guys early, I feel like I'm kind of waiting to the end, and I'll get like maybe Dansby Swanson or Willie Adames. After that, I'm not really that happy with the position. The question marks are a little too much for me, but overall, I mean, again, people don't like to give away what they're doing. I give away what I'm doing consistently.
Me
You
too.
won't be surprised at what I'm doing. You'll be surprised at how well I'm going to do it. I love filling up my entire infield early. Um, they have the whole thing where people are saying outfield's deep, and then you have the other people who are like, it's not as deep as you think, and you need 5 of them. I do love the depth, and I am okay grabbing just like one really good one, and then one mid tier, and then waiting pretty late for the other three. I don't mind doing that. But it all
I,
depends.
I don't think there. I mean, outside of catcher, like I don't think there's and relief pitcher, obviously, but like I don't really think there's a position that is shallow necessarily. I know people like don't like third base, but there's still good third basemen, especially
Yeah.
when you're talking about like a regular league. Like when you're talking about draft and hold, everything becomes shallow at round. Like you and I are in a draft that's been going on for about 6 years. I think it's in round 49 right now, and like there's
I've
nothing.
been on auto draft for 3 days and it's
Yeah,
still not over.
uh-huh. Yeah, no, I noticed you finally did that. There are there's a guy who's on the clock currently, and then five straight people are on auto draft after that until it gets to me, and you're one of them. So
So good.
it's the draft that will never end.
Yeah. But yeah, third base, right? I mean, if I don't get J Ram, Devers, or Machado, I kind of am okay waiting for like the Suarez
mm-hmm,
Donaldson tier because I think that there's so many question marks even with Bregman and Rendon and I don't necessarily want to invest in, even though I love Moncada and Chapman. I don't think there's a big advantage to grabbing them much earlier than the guys behind them. Justin Turner's always a value. So yeah, I
mm-hmm.
don't think I don't hate third base as much as people do. I mean, I think the question marks start to mount up a lot earlier than any other position. But yeah, if you don't grab early, I don't see why you can't wait. I don't need to grab a third baseman early. If I don't grab one of the ones I like, I'll just wait.
Yeah, I just don't think there is a position that is that bad in a regular league, even in a 15 team 30 round draft. Like I don't mind much of anybody or any position, outside of relief pitcher. I want to get my relief pitchers early. I'm definitely not messing around with that too much. Though I
This is the
have.
first. This is the first like league that I'm doing. This actually might be the first Fab league I'm drafting this year. I've done a lot of
Mhm.
draft and hold, so I'd like to see how people handle relief pitching. This because obviously in draft and holds, after the draft you can't fix it.
Mhm.
So relief pitching has gone in extraordinarily early. Now that there's actually waivers in Fab, I'd like to see how extreme people get during TGFBI here.
I can tell you in my draft, no closers went in the first 2 rounds. Now, picks 1 and 2 of the third round, Hendricks and Hader went. And we're now, I think, we're 10 picks through the third round, and it's still just Hendricks and Hader. But um, yeah, I'll be interested to see how people play it because, like I said, there is Fab, so there will be people that go, I'll get my saves in Fab, and then you don't have to worry about just being stuck with that roster. I
Yeah.
mean, the lockout is screwing us with closer prices. That's one of the main reasons closer prices are crazy is because there's so many unsettled situations because so many guys are unsigned or not traded yet.
Isn't that a reason to invest in closers even more now? So especially when even if it's a longer lockout, you don't have to be worried about that first Fab period when everyone's going to be bidding on all their money on the closers.
But also, like maybe it's not because you won't need as many saves because everybody's going to be even more bunched together if it's a
Yeah,
shorter
yeah,
season.
yeah, yeah.
So like I don't know. I think there's arguments to be made both ways. This is going to be a lot like 2020 where people like have these ideas of how things are going to go because we have a shortened season and nobody really fucking knows what they're talking about because it'll
Yep.
be a brand new experience.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
So, what's next for Matt Williams? Do you have like grand plans down the road? Do you have anything going on right now you really want to talk about? What is the short and long term plan for Matt Williams?
No, I don't have a grand plan. I always try to get better at what I'm doing, like everyone else should.
Oh, I
Improve.
do not do that.
Well, I want to improve like coding. I want to get more into that so I can kind of build cool visualizations. But again, I'm not looking to be the head of the Astro scouting department or the research and development. I just want to be able to do cooler stuff. That's my goal, cooler stuff. Scouting in general, like there's so many cool things you see with like the driveline people, do they have anyone left? Every time I look, it looks like they've been hired away too.
Mm-hmm.
But the cool things you can do with all the different all the different things that are now available. I'd love to be able to look more into the actual video part of it, but it's just always trying to get better because I mean the people that are extremely info forward will always have an opinion that differs from the people in the middle that kind of straddle the two, and then they'll have the scouting side that'll completely disagree. So I kind of like, want to be, as well balanced as possible. So I'm always looking to, there you're never there's never a point where you shouldn't be looking to learn, or you think you know everything. You can not want to bother and just be, comfortable in an area that where you want to be, but you should never pretend like you know anything. A lot of people try to answer questions, like people will ask me like dynasty questions. I'm not like, I don't know any much about the 12th best prospect on, the Twins. I'll direct them to other people. James Anderson time for you.
Hmm.
But I always try to get better and better and try to increase my knowledge in every way I can. So it's basically that. It's just a work in progress always. But other than that, I'm very happy over at NBC, doing my thing. And, we'll see. We'll see what happens here. We'll continue to grow the Turn 2 podcast. Maybe I'll turn ads on one of these days.
There you go.
I would like to get one, like, something useful. I know it's like some people have like, like the manscaping and stuff. Like I would love to get a product that I actually would use. Like they have like those solo stoves. I'll reach out to them. Maybe I can get a free solo stove.
We in the early days of Friends Fantasy Benefits, we used to run ads that were fake. Um, so it would always have something to do with a joke or something
Yeah.
from a previous episode. Like we used to run ads for George Springer's bathwater. And I can't remember the other things we used. And so yeah, they were just fake ads that we just throw randomly into the episode here and there. Just because we didn't have enough listeners for anybody actually ever like
Yeah.
want to advertise with us, so we would just jokingly pretend like we did by advertising fake stuff.
Oh, and this is one thing with the ads too. Like joking aside, where I said I'm too lazy to do it. Yeah, I can do it. It's and this is again every no matter what I say, it's always somehow like I'm attacking someone. This isn't against anyone who runs ads. Just for me, I know how annoying they can be sometimes. If I'm going to run one on my show, I always just figured I'd wait to do something that I think would be cool to promote. And I hate the ones with the promo codes. I don't know, they bother me because like,
I don't I got approached the other day about an affiliate program for a new
yeah,
DFS site. And they're like, I was like, well, how does it work? And they're like, well, we give you a promo code. Whoever goes and signs up. I was like, yeah, no, I don't do that. The guy
yeah.
just,
Because one, I don't want to beg for people to go use a promo code.
yeah.
Two, I probably am not even going to use the site that's trying to tell me to go to promote them. And three, people are going to hear the ad and maybe go sign up anyway, unless there's an incentive for them to actually use the code. Then they're going to go, and you're not going to get it. You're not going to see any money from that anyway. I hate promo codes. I know they work. There's nothing for the people offering them. I mean, offer them to everybody. Why not? I don't know why you don't offer promo codes to everybody. Where's the downside?
Hmm.
But yeah, I hate being in a position where you have to do that. It just I don't see the I don't like it.
My experiences haven't been good with those because we did do some of those early on in Fred's Fantasy Benefits days, and never saw any money back from it. And it's like, I don't know if you guys are just not paying us, or if people aren't using it. Like
Yeah.
it's I have no idea because it's all year analytics. So yeah, I have no problem doing advertising.
Mhm.
There you will hear an ad in this episode when it's on the podcast because I have a partnership with Fan Tracks for this season.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
had one of those for January.
yeah, but we have an agreement, right? But yeah, if it's a yeah, get 20% off of this. Use promo code Mason Face. Uh, yeah, then I don't do that. So
Oh, well, you know what? Those would be fine. I hate the thing where like, put this promo code in and you get like, put in $10 deposit and we'll match
oh
it.
yeah.
If you had something for RotoWare, Mason Face, and people just always got a flat certain percent off for putting the promo code Mason Face, like something like that would be cool because like you're obviously affiliated with them and you could have fun with it. Like, yeah, I'll do it. I mean, again, you'll hear ads on Turn 2 now. Now I'm like actually going to go out of my way to go find some funny place to have an ad. So I was only half joking when I said I was too lazy to set it up. I just never bothered because I guess I never really have the business mindset because I do I've been doing that podcast more of just my own side thing. So it
Hmm.
literally just hasn't occurred to me, and that's the truth. It's just I record, I put it up, it never occurs to me to do.
We used to, me and Joe Pisapia and Chris McBrien back in the day,
Mhm.
and maybe ITL was part of it too. I can't remember or not. We used to record our like 30-second spot ads for our own podcast, and then we played on each other's podcasts.
Oh, that's
Um, so we would do things like, in like Joe Pisapia, I think until a couple years ago, he would just send me like a black book ad. I mean, I brought it like, and I still would. He just stopped sending it to me, and I kind of forgot about it. So, like, that's something I, probably should like try to get a group of us together and be like, hey, let's run advertising on each other's podcasts, as opposed to, because helping each other out. So
no, that's a good idea.
yeah, it was Chris McBrien's idea. Chris McBrien was awesome. I don't know. I don't know if you were listening to podcasts back when Chris was doing his thing, but for those who don't know, Chris McBrien did the Dear Mr. Fantasy podcast with, I think, Dr. Roto at one point. I can't remember who it was exactly. Fantasy Doctor, and then Joe Pisapia took over the Fantasy Doctor before he went off to his own thing, and it was the most popular independent podcast on the market. It was probably doing the numbers that Sleeper in the Bust was doing, or is doing, and ESPN and CBS, because it was like the first um, independent podcast in fantasy baseball. But Chris was like the nicest of guys. I learned a lot from him. Just like being a good person will get you to get you places.
It's funny the stuff you listen to growing up. Like I listen to ESPN, the 06010, when I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
now what they do today, which again, I haven't, no offense to them, I haven't listened to that in probably like 10 years. But like, yeah, like Matthew Barry, Nate Ravitz, they like, originated the combo meal with the home run and
Mm-hmm.
stolen base and all that is fun. I remember listening like,
Bonafide or Bonifacio.
yes. And like when back when XM was like came free with any car, like when I had a car a long time ago, we had like a free thing of XM radio, and I listened to like Jeff Erickson. That was like
Mm-hmm.
who was on, and like yeah, now like I get invitations from Jeff Erickson to like join Tout. And I know there's people that have been kind of shitting on industry leagues, but it's just like you grow up with that. It's like that was, especially they even talked about an the 06010. It's
Mm-hmm.
just one of those things where like, holy crap, like you're a part of this now. It's just like one of those just kind of cool things. It's like some people are like, oh, they think people throw certain stigmas on certain things, and there's like a war between high stakes and non-high stakes, but it's just more of a just an enjoyable thing. Like certain people enjoy certain things. Some people love high stakes. They love like the pressure of it and the competition. Some people don't have the money. Some people grew up listening to certain things like this, and I was like really excited to be invited to Tout because it's like something I kind of grew up following,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to hear the how different people approach different drafts and they try different things, and it's just so many cool things. So yeah, that's another reason I always say I always end my podcast with this. My DMs are always open. I said it earlier. Some people don't want to ask questions because, especially in today's world, people don't want outside announcers, people dropping in, making fun of them. Maybe if they don't understand something, or if they don't, they want to talk about something specific. That's why I always kind of leave my DMs open. Is it a good idea? Sometimes no. You
Yeah.
get some weirdos, but more often than not, you can just ignore them. But yeah, it's yeah,
I have my DMs open too. I get some weirdos every once in a while, but usually it's pretty good.
yeah.
I leave them open because I'm very open about being a recovering alcoholic and working in the addiction industry, and so I leave it open just because every once in a while people reach out to me uh, for help, whether it's for themselves or for someone else. And then I also answer questions and stuff like that. I try to be as accessible as possible. Funny enough, 06010, 10 years ago, Nate Ravitz and Matthew Berry talked about my beard
Really.
because I wrote in a question. I got the audio somewhere still. I had written in a question about whether or not I should shave off my playoff beard after the Giants made the playoffs in 2012, because I wanted to because it was hot. And my wife did not want me to. I did not. They went on to win the World Series, and I will always remember them. How excited I was listening to them discuss the beginning of an episode whether or not I should shave my playoff beard.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, I used to love that freaking show.
and Danielle's in his book. Danielle, have you ever read his book?
I have not. I've glanced at it. I've never read it all the way through.
So Danielle is in the bonus section of his book. One of the stories in the bonus section is about her. It was I submitted it to Matthew Berry when he was in the process of writing his book, and he used it in the bonus section. So it's the one in which a very pregnant woman shit talks someone in their league so bad that they quit the league. um, which is a true story. Someone, a buddy of mine from high school, who'd been in the league for 10 years, quit because my wife shit talked him so bad he couldn't show his face in the league anymore.
Like Matthew Berry started following me a while ago for football when I was doing FF statistics that I talked about, and that at the time again blew my mind. All this stuff blows my. You ever like? I mean, I don't know what it is. What's considered a success in the industry? I remember going insane when I had like 1,000 followers on Twitter. Like, can you believe 1,000 people want to hear what I have to say? And like talking to my wife and then you have certain people follow you, like, Mike Curlin today, like, it was a big day for him. We already talked about him. He's a great guy. David Cohn started following him. He's like, check this out. Like, does that still happen to you, or someone will follow you and be like, holy crap, this is awesome?
Yeah. Every once in a while, unfortunately, like the last person where I really went like, oh my God, look, this person is following me. He turned out it was Jonah Carey, and he turned out to be a huge dirtbag. Like literally followed me, and then like 2 days later he was arrested. And I was like, oh no. I was like, but yeah, every once in a while someone will follow me, and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. Like, this person's following someone recently. I can't remember who it was now. Where it was like, I was like, oh, I'm surprised they're following me. That's kind of cool.
I always tell this story, which is complete. The conclusion's complete bullshit, but it's still true. So I tell it nonetheless. I did one of my player threads on Pablo Lopez, the Marlins, and I wrote all about how much I loved him and broke down all of his pitches. And I said the only issue is his changeup. It's such a phenomenal pitch. He just needs to throw it more. And he actually reached out to me privately, telling me how much he loved the thread, and there were some really great points in there. Keep up the great work. And then he went on to have his best season, and he threw his changeup a lot more, which, of course, the Marlins just do now. That's just the thing. But I always say, oh, well, I told him to throw it more, and he did, and he thanked me. So technically, I'm going to take 1% of the credit.
You should take all the credit. I mean, it's not like he's going to say publicly it wasn't you.
Maybe I'm the reason the Marlins all throw more changeups.
Yeah.
Maybe it's all me.
Are you Derek also Jeter, the reason Derek Jeter got fired today?
Derek Jeter stepped down because I was coming for his job.
You're not announcing going to the Athletic. You're going to be announcing you're the new CEO of the Marlins.
Yeah. You're like, what's next on the horizon for me? Nothing much. I'm just going to run the Marlins.
Yeah. No, that's all right. As long as you can do it without spending any money, because apparently that was the reason why Jeter stepped down, because they didn't want to spend any money. He was all like, what? No, we're so close to being good.
Kind of surprises me because they made the surprising move to go get Marte last year, and then they actually brought in Avisel Garcia. Like, they made some interesting moves to get better. So yeah, they are so close. So I mean, we don't know what happens behind the scenes. We only know what we're told, but
they have the luxury. Yeah, they have the luxury of like the one thing everybody needs. Yeah, everybody always needs pitching, and they've got a bunch of pitching. Like,
yeah. And when what did they say in the NFL? Like, right, you go for the championships when you have the quarterback on the rookie contract, because you have the money. Like in baseball, you have like this whole rotation of controllable players. Like, go get your missing pieces on offense now. Like, go get it done. But hey, it's baseball.
It was Derek Gould who followed me recently, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I really like him. He's one of my favorite beat writers. So
that's awesome. When everyone, like, during this time of like, everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna go watch college baseball, and a lot of people are like jumping on board. Yay, baseball at all levels is great. And I'm not saying it's not, but for most people, no one's gonna go watch college baseball, no one's going to go take their family to go follow an entire season of a minor league team. Do you have the luxury of doing that in your area? Like, do you have any minor league team? Like, worst came to worst, is that something you would do? Because I don't really have a college near me. I'm in the Northeast. College baseball is not exactly a thing up here that they take totally serious, but I do have a ton of minor league teams. Maybe I'll go up to, I can go up to New York and see like the low A Mets in Coney Island. But I don't know. Is that something, if this lockout lingers on, is that something that you'd be doing?
Probably not. I mean, the closest minor league stadium is about 2 hours away.
Oh, yeah.
And with kids, like I can't pack my 3-year-old into the car for 2 hours to go watch a minor league game. So it seems unlikely that is gonna be a thing for me. I'll probably just watch KBO again. That'll be, I'm up super late and I'm up super early in the morning, so I can, I'm one of the few people that are still awake when KBO DFS lineups lock.
Do you see that? Do you see that post by Bryce Harper? He was like,
yeah,
"You guys up? I have some free time." And then Rosenthal actually posted something that in the agreement for the lockout, players are apparently allowed to go play for those teams right now. They're actually allowed to. If there's a lockout that's going to delay the actual season, they're allowed to go play for those other teams.
I mean,
I highly doubt like Bryce Harper's going to do it, but it's just hilarious.
You don't want to risk. You don't want to risk getting hurt. And
how great would that be, though? You wake up at like 4 a.m.
I'll tell
Eastern time, and Bryce Harper's hitting dongs out there in Japan.
The first thing I thought was, man, he looked good in orange and black, and I wish the Giants had signed him. That's the first thing I looked, because he was wearing there was the Hiroshima Giants. I don't know. I don't know which.
Yeah, I think so. I think
that. So, and the orange and black of the Giants. So I was like, ooh, God, that makes me sad that they weren't the ones who ponied up for that contract. But it'll be interesting to see which guy. I'm sure some of the unsigned people will, like, not the major stars. Like, I don't see Correa going and doing that, but maybe some of the, like, second tier guys might go in and do that, just especially if they can get an out clause in their contract to come back to states to play once things open back up. But I mean, who knows? You and I've been talking now for like an hour and a half, so like we don't know if anything's happened. I doubt anything's happened, but I hope they figure something out. Like they really just have to figure something out.
I'm like trying to look right now. It's probably like each side gave each other the finger. Someone hit Manfred over the head with a bat.
Oh God, yeah. You know what the sad part is like every Major League Baseball commissioner gets put in the Hall of Fame, which means at some point Manfred's gonna get put in the Hall of Fame, and that's just fucking despicable.
Yeah,
Barry Bonds can't get in, Pete Rose can't get in, Roger Clemens can't get in, but Rob Manfred's ass is gonna be in the Hall of Fame at some point.
The only thing I didn't find anything on the lockout. All I saw was Craig Mish, who is about as reliable as you can get, said that the reports are that the Marlins had offered Starling Marte a long-term deal, and they Avi Garcia told Craig Mish that the Marlins had already had offered him a long-term deal also for him to stay there after they at the same time. So I don't know. Who knows? It could be an A's thing where they was like 15 million over 15 years. Who knows? But yeah.
Interesting. Well, how I always end every one of these podcasts is I ask the same question. And it's, if someone's listening and they go, I want to be like Matt, I want to do what Matt does, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to them for someone who's trying to come into the industry and, kind of emulate you a little bit?
All right. I mean, honestly, this is how I would go about doing, if you want to go the path I went. What excites you about baseball and fantasy baseball? I went into wanting to do player analysis. I started completely on the hitting side. I didn't get into pitching for a long time. Pick a niche, sort of, but like something that you feel comfortable with, something that you think you can excel at, but most importantly, something that interests you the most. If it's bullpens, if it's pitching, whatever, and then follow the people that do that the best. Ask them questions, look at their posts, look at their work. Go into research, ask questions. Usually a lot of people, we already said me and Justin have our DMs open. There's a lot of people that do. A lot of people will answer your questions. Some won't. Don't take it personal. But yeah, just try to get really good at one thing. And then once you feel comfortable enough, write about it as much as possible. If you want to write something, send it to me. I constantly am asking for new people to send it. I'll like post it out there, and you can always send it into all these websites. The worst thing that happens is like they'll say no. But yeah, just get really, really good at one thing and consistently always try to get better. Never think that there's enough to learn. Always try to improve. So yeah, all you can do is that. I mean, there is certain scenarios where it's a who you know situation, but more often than not, this just takes time. So you just got to work and get better and get better. Like I said, my original podcast was probably complete garbage. I'd probably be embarrassed to even air it. If you want to go the podcast route, which there's a lot of them, and a lot of people would be like, "Oh no, there's so many podcasts. Who cares? Who cares how many podcasts or websites there are? You have to start somewhere. It doesn't mean you have to stay where you start. Just find a way to get your work out there." Todd Zola has a site that he did with who did he
Laura Michaels, yeah.
with Lauren Michaels called Creative Sports.
Mm-hmm.
Look that up on Twitter. I mean, it's a thing where they just go in there and they're looking for people that are just brand new. Go with them. They'll get your work out there. Just is main thing. Yeah, just constantly work to get better and always look to get work out there any way you can. You get feedback. It's just the best way to do it.
Absolutely. As far as the podcasting go, I was atrocious when I first started. Like really, really bad. And I'm grateful that those episodes no longer exist, that they're lost to the ether. But it was part of me wishes I could still go back and listen to a couple because I was really, really bad. But even though I was really, really bad, people still came on my podcast. Like I reached out to Paul Sporer and Chris McBrien and Jason Collette, and Mike Gianella and people like that early on when I started, and they came on and they talked baseball with me and talked fantasy with me, and it made me better talking to people who were so good. So if you're gonna start a podcast, like don't hesitate to reach out to people in the industry and ask them to come on your podcast or ask them to read your work. Because like I said, the worst someone can do is either say nothing or say no. But there are a ton of people in the industry that will say yes and be happy to come on your podcast or talk to you about things. It's just as much as we sometimes bicker with each other on Twitter and other places, it's pretty much kind of like a family, and families sometimes bicker, but ultimately we're all here for each other and we all help each other out. So I think that was great advice.
All right.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Hopefully have baseball sooner than later. That's all I'll say. Fingers crossed, everybody. We're going to talk about baseball probably throughout this entire thing. I'm not shutting down any of my work or my podcasts. I'll be going through all this. My article for NBC is coming out tomorrow, which we're recording this on Monday. So Tuesday, we'll see how excited everyone is to read it, but it'll be out every Tuesday regardless until we have regular season games and then hereafter. But hey, let's go baseball.